Having some issues with the internet connection today, so I don't know the variable bit rates around, but let's hope it gets through okay. Welcome very much to our first Whiteboard Wednesday. This is genuinely live. We're going to start leveraging the use of live here at nxtedition. And we're going to do one of these every Wednesday around about the same time. And we're going to hope to give you some, talk about subjects close to everybody's hearts about, different kinds of technologies and how we implement them. And today we're talking about achieving agility using virtualization. Now, part of what I want to do here is also introduce a little of nxtcloud and how we've achieved some of this virtualization inside nxtcloud and give you some demonstrations of how that all works. Hopefully it holds together. So let's start with a more agile environment. What does a more agile environment mean? It starts to mean that we end up in a situation where we have kind of limitless opportunities to do things because you're very able to do things in an agile manner. You can change quickly, you can move around. If something's not working, you can change it very fast. That's what being in an agile environment is all about. And it's adopting agile working practices alongside agile software as well at the same time. Now, when it comes to working practices, I came across this graph the other day. It was quite interesting. If you watch across all the sectors, who's deploying agile tools in their infrastructure and actually managing their teams using agile tools, it's actually quite a low amount. It's, as you'd expect, quite a lot of the IT and software industry is doing a lot of agile stuff, and financial services too. But the media industry is only at 5%. So only 5% of us are actually using any agile tools at all. And that tells us a lot. I think that's something we need to look at. So how do we achieve agility through virtualization? Well, the first thing that you want to think about doing is trying to replace physical kit with agile microservices. So instead of these monolithic block software devices in boxes, we get rid of those and we replace them with scalable, elastic microservices. And then the application of agile working practices, such as things like Kanban boards and Scrum, and some of these practices around that, how can we actually bring that into play to be more agile in our working environments? And then centralizing all the steps of planning and production into a single UI. How can we not be always across 6 or 7 different computers like octopuses doing different things? Can we actually centralize content into a single UI? And planning and production, but also the content. So how can we get the content in there? So what we want to do is to kind of build this bridge from the past through where we are currently in the present and into the future. And that's what an agile working practice will do. It will allow you to actually push that through. And to do that, you need some agile tools. So let's talk a bit about how nxtedition is deployed in public cloud and how we've done that cloud deployment and what that kind of agile environment actually looks like. So the first thing that we've done with nxtcloud is that the system is exactly the same as it is on-premise. In fact, it also allows us to have a hybrid system where we keep some of the stuff in the cloud and some of the stuff on the ground. So it can be a hybrid system, a cloud system, or an on-prem system, but it's the same experience regardless of which it is. The biggest change that we've made is that we containerized and Linuxified the Caspar CG. So before on the ground, we always had these Caspar CGs with HDSDI, green cable, the score coming out. And we can still do that, obviously. But when you get into the cloud, you're more dealing with IP streams. So you don't need this in and outs of green wire. So what we've done is compiled that into a Linux containerized microservice. So we can spin these up, and each instance has 2 channels out. And I'll show you how effective that can be shortly. It can be installed on any cloud provider, and we use layers in the Caspar to replace the vision and audio mixer. So we can control multiple layers, and we can put different things on different layers, and that allows us to actually discard the use of a vision mixer and an audio mixer. We can actually do it with layers. And up there, we can use the elasticity of compute and also storage, etc., all those things up there. But the one thing to note about nxtcloud is we don't use any proprietary service from any particular cloud provider. So what we're doing is we're saying you can put it anywhere because it's its own ecosystem it lives in. We can also do very effective disaster recovery through replication. So what we're doing is we're not syncing files, okay? So we're not bringing something that's on the ground back up here. We're actually synchronizing the whole of the situation through replication. So when a journalist changes something in a script, it's immediately replicated into the cloud version. So should the power grid go down, somebody can jump onto their mobile phone or their laptop and they can just carry on working where they left off. So replication is a lot different to syncing. It's a much more dynamic environment. So how does nxtcloud leverage the power of the containerized Caspar CG? Where does that agility come from? So to explain briefly, a Caspar CG has always on the ground in the Windows environment had unlimited layers, They can contain HTML5 vector data. They can also have live sources like live streams or HDSDI if it's on the ground, or RTMP, HLS, NDI or SRT in the sky. And we can have video with or without alpha and audio streams. And we can layer all those up inside one single Caspar channel. What a lot of people don't know is that a Caspar CG also has an internal mixer that can dynamically scale and position these layers. So you can actually start doing things like squeeze backs. You can actually even do the overlay modes, like you have in Photoshop, soft light, hard light, etc. So you can actually have those inside Next, and they're controlled by the events, so we can actually sequence those. So in simple terms, we could have a situation where you have like a live feed here. So this could be any live source coming in, could be like a Reuters feed or something like that. Then just for demonstration purposes, I've created this straight key background. So layer 0 here has nothing on it, all right? It's just a straight key background. And here on layer 1, we just have a simple lower third HTML graphic. Now, of course, what would happen then is that these three things would be overlaid, and you would get this pretty simple normal effect, a graphic on a live source, nothing special there. How's that achieved in Next? Well, this is the Next NRCS system. So here is a script, and you can actually just drag a lower third into the script here, and all you have to do is put the name that you want in there, and it will appear there. And that's all you have to do. There's no complexity around how you build the graphic. It's just a simple case of metadata entry. So again, that will allow us to have the lower third text come over the top of the background. Now let's ramp that up a little bit. So let's use this mixer function. So layer 0 now, I've put a video in here, or it could be a live stream actually. It could be an RTMP stream or a SRT stream coming into this layer, okay? And then using the mixer inside the Caspar, we can actually resize that layer to be a picture-in-picture. So then we can bring everything back together, and you start to see how we can assemble this stuff by stacking it. So we've got a live picture-in-picture along with a live source and a lower third graphic rolling there. And how is that achieved inside Next? So here's our script again, and here's our lower third that's inside of our script. And every single event in Next has what we call a child event button here. So when you push the child event button, I can drop into here any event that I have in the system that's a child of this that will trigger when this triggers. Now the beauty of that is here is a placeholder. So I'll take the placeholder and I just drag my video into the placeholder that I want. And now I can use the scaling and positioning part of this event to push that anywhere I like, which is how I end up with this situation where I can take this video here and I can just resize it. Okay, so it's now resized. So again, all in the cloud. Now I've got picture-in-picture and HTML graphics over a live source. Okay, let's talk a bit about After Effects. So with After Effects, lots of people know it, lots of people understand it. It's a beautiful piece of software. It's one of my favorites actually. And you can do a lot of stuff in After Effects. So let's just start with the very basics, like if we do an alpha video that loops, for instance. So let's step back to where we were before. Okay, and here I've got this dancing raccoon that if anyone's seen any of our demos, they will have seen the dancing raccoon. The dancing raccoon is an alpha loop. So it's basically a piece of video, key and fill, that's been imported into Next, okay? So we go in our standard situation, our picture-in-picture, our lower third, and then we can take our dancing raccoon, that's the alpha animation. I have to wait for him to come back on here, otherwise it won't be as effective. Come on now, here we go. And we put him over the top as another layer. So now we're building up these layers, building up these layers, building up these layers. And you can see that we don't have any vision mixer or anything involved here. We're just building layers up. Now, the other beauty of After Effects is that Airbnb created a free plugin that's available called Body Moving or Lottie Files, which allows us to take any vector data inside of After Effects and export that as a HTML CSS template for the Caspar, which means we've built Next so that you just drag that file into Next and it will automatically generate the event and expose the fields that you've chosen for the journalist to be able to type in any information or images or whatever. So the next question is, what does it look like? Okay, so what does it look like indeed? So this is actually what we call Next 2, and it's running on YouTube. Please feel free to go to our YouTube channel and have a look. We run 2 channels live 24/7. We eat our own dog food, so to speak. So we're actually genuinely running this, and that's what you're seeing here. So what I would like to do is just show you how this goes together. First of all, this background you see, this is layer 1. Okay, so the background is sitting there at all times and it's running in layer 1. Then we have a PNG file here. This is layer 2. So that's basically just the bug. Okay. Then we have this video running here. Now this video, if I just draw around it, this is again playing from the rundown inside Nextcloud. and this is layer 3. Okay, but what it's done is the mixer has resized layer 3. So layer 3 now is actually squeezed down into position here, and all the videos that go into this layer are going to be in that position. Okay, so we've rescaled this position. Just because it's fun, I also have here the video that's currently playing's name, which is layer 4. So that's on top, but layer 4 is actually also in the same scale as this video. So it will always be in the same place here over the top, but it's another HTML graphic over the top. And then finally, the fifth layer is this, which is what you can see here. This is all HTML graphics. And in this case, as we stand right here now, this is actually Flowix, but it could equally be Singular Live, or it could equally be something that we have inside Next. You know, we could build our own graphics, for instance, in Lottie files, whatever. And this is layer 5. Okay, all of that is running live from one single Caspar channel in the cloud. Okay, and there's another Caspar channel running out of this one, which is running what we call Next 1, which is another channel that's running Singular Live that runs along parallel to this. So there's actually two channels coming out of one virtual Caspar, and that's actually how that all hangs together. It's pretty impressive. So now, how can we use the power of virtualization to create localization? How can we use some of these tools to be more localized, for instance? So here's a very interesting dynamic for you. This is a football game, okay, and it's just going on over here. And we have a camera there, so we send that camera SRT up to Nextcloud, okay? So simple SRT feed coming up to Nextcloud. And then within Nextcloud, what we'll do is we'll spin up 2 virtual Caspars, okay? And each virtual Caspar is past the SRT feed, and then there's 2 outputs on each Caspar. So now what we've got is 4 outputs. So effectively now we've created a 1 feed into 4, okay? Now, we can expand on that. So we could say, okay, what about if the commentary feeds come in French, Spanish, German, and English? And we bring those feeds into Nextcloud as well. So now we have some audio feeds of commentary coming into Nextcloud. At the same time, we also have graphics metadata. So the graphics could be, for instance, all inside here, and we can either auto-translate or we could manually translate them, entirely up to the client. And what you do is take that metadata of both the audio and the graphics, and you feed each one down a separate output, okay? And then by default, what that will give you is it will give you French commentary with French graphics, Spanish commentary with Spanish graphics, German commentary with German graphics, and English commentary with English graphics, all coming from one Nextcloud system with 2 virtual Caspars. And that's all entirely feasible using the technology that we got here of the layers. So, in summary, the Caspar CG is basically acting as a consolidator of many different formats into a single frame to deliver in real time. We're combining live sources, live streams, video, audio, dynamic HTML data. It works both on-prem with HDSDI or in the cloud with SRT, CDI, NDI. It can be driven solely from the NRCS system and the rundown. You can do it anywhere. You can do it on your laptop, in the car if you want, on your phone. The graphics can be responsive, so we can burn those in. We can also make them 1x1 or 9:16 if you like. And we can even start to get into object-based broadcasting by sending timestamp metadata and allowing those graphics, for instance, to render on the device. So with that, I think that's as far as I've got to. The award-winning Nextcloud, bringing virtualization, etc. to you. I'm going to see if anybody's asked me any questions. If you want to ask me any questions, I'll just hang around it here at the end. Doesn't look like it, so I hope everybody enjoyed that. And I'll see you on the next one next week, next Wednesday, same time, same place. Thanks.